Starting treadmill. Starting targets.
The current state of fall prevention is not great. So working on balance or strengthening only ends up helping a small percentage of individuals, and we're not sure if it's because the strategies to prevent falls aren't ideal or if it's because we're implementing these strategies at an inappropriate time. So here we're trying to see, can we find something, whether it be cortical activity related or whether it be step adjustment, kind of biomechanics related, that is a better indicator of somebody who's making that transition to a higher risk of falls.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, during my original doctoral work, we did similar studies where we looked at gait performance of different older adults stepping on stepping stones. But at that point, we never looked at how much cognitive researches do they use, which brain areas are activated.
Most of the study so far has been looking at the frontal part of the brain, so the PFC, the brain activity of the PFC, which is usually involved in walking and moving around. But one of the things that this study is unique is we are also looking at the back, the PPC, which is involved in visual, and how the visual information gets into the brain, in the back of the brain, and then goes to the front and potentially influences the front to react to like whatever is happening as the person is walking.
I think it's quite novel and interesting to be able to look at not only how somebody just walks on the treadmill, which we tend to do in most of our studies, but then compare that to when they place their foot, how close is it to something on the screen? I often make an analogy that it's almost like Guitar Hero on the Ground or Dance Dance Revolution, if you're old enough or young enough to remember that.
First of all, we started with an excellent undergraduate student who was a double major computer sciences and kinesiology, who coded up all our projection software that allows us to project these stepping stones. I think that was a very important key part of this study. And then since then, graduate students has been collecting all the data, doing all the experiments, analyzing all the data, and then we get involved as professors to see, okay, what does this mean, and have you looked at this? So I think this is very much run by the graduate students working on this project.
We are wrapping up this original project. We have a manuscript out from that original design.
And now that we have a really good grasp on how the brain or the cortical activity is interacting with the biomechanics and the step adjustment component of it, we feel more confident that we can now address these more complex questions.
What I intend to do is to look at a graded version of difficulty in my visually cued walking task, where step adjustments must be made under changing timing constraints. So we shift the target closer to or further from the participant, requiring a step adjustment. And across those graded difficulty levels of the task, I'm interested in seeing, do we see age-related increases in cortical activity up to a point that potentially falls off? And so where does that threshold sit for older adults, which could potentially down the line lead to kind of targeted gait training interventions with that whose difficulty level is set by some cortical activity measure.
I would like to help all humans move better as they age, but in particular, these older adults are really prone to falling, and that can be a very drastic change in their quality of life.
I think that's the translation of what we're doing, is learning how people respond to potential falls, and then can we do something with science to help those people that are at risk of falling.